In those days, time moved slowly, letters traveled even more slowly, and a lifetime was just enough to devote one's heart to loving a single person. In an era without telephones or instant communication, writing letters became the only way for people to convey longing and sustain emotional bonds. It was for this reason that a company specializing in writing letters on behalf of others quietly came into existence. And those who took on this special line of work were known as automemory dolls. One day, Anne suddenly noticed that a strange guest had arrived at her home. The girl's posture and mannerisms made her seem just like a doll, and the moment this girl appeared, she seemed to take away Anne's beloved mother. And disliked this expressionless girl, because during her mother's serious illness, many people had come to the house, and without exception, every one of them was thinking about the inheritance her mother would leave behind. Although Anne was still very young, her mother's illness had forced her to witness the coldness and hypocrisy of human nature far too early. It was only later that Anne learned that this girl named Violet was an auto-memory doll, hired to help her mother write letters. What puzzled Anne, however, was who her mother was writing these letters to. At that moment, Anne was sent out of the room by her mother. All she could do was stand silently by the window, watching her mother and Violet write together. But her mother's condition was steadily worsening. More than once, she would faint in the room while writing, and every time her mother woke up, she would gently stroke Anne's head and softly tell her that she would get better very soon, and knew deep down that her mother's body might already be beyond saving. So she wanted to stay by her side at all times. Yet the mother, who had always doted on and told her that she needed to spend some time with the guest, not wanting to make her mother sad, and reluctantly went to stay by Violet's side. The two of them began playing with dolls together, and couldn't help but burst out laughing. A big doll playing with small dolls. It was something she had never seen before, and the way Violet spoke to the dolls always made Anne giggle. As the days went by, whenever her mother felt well enough, she would hide away with Violet in the sunroom, writing letters endlessly, and kept trying to get inside. But the butler faithfully carried out his duty, stopping her at the door every time, and watched as her mother sometimes smiled, and sometimes shed tears. Her curiosity about the recipient of those letters only grew stronger. She knew she wouldn't get answers from her mother. So late one night, she secretly slipped into Violet's room. She asked whether, for the next 7 days, Violet and her mother would continue writing letters like this. After receiving Violet's confirmation, Anne couldn't help but ask who those letters were written for, but Violet firmly refused to answer, citing confidentiality, and could only guess that they weren't for her father, since he had died long ago. But who they were really meant for, she couldn't figure out. She didn't understand why her mother refused to let her stay by her side these days. Yet Violet still wouldn't say a word, only telling her to be a good girl and go back to sleep. In the end, Anne was gently coaxed back to her room by Violet, and after that night, Anne and Violet grew much closer. Once Violet finished writing letters, Anne would cling to her every day, asking Violet to read picture books to her, to play guessing games and catch bugs together. Before bedtime, she insisted that Violet tell her stories. One day, when Anne wanted to ask Violet to help tie her ribbon, she happened to overhear her mother talking with Violet. Violet could only help tie Anne's ribbon first, but Anne slowly spoke up. She said she didn't actually want Violet to tie her ribbon, nor did she want Violet to play with her. She just wanted to stay by her mother's side. She didn't understand why her mother refused to spend time with her these days. Anne's voice grew louder and louder. She begged Violet to give her mother back to her, but Violet could only refuse, and was still too young to understand the meaning of these 7 days. All Violet could do was comfort her, telling her to wait just 7 more days, and then her mother would return to her side. As the days passed, all the letters were nearly finished, but her mother's condition grew worse and worse. When she finally took the letters into her hands, she nearly collapsed to the floor. Anne, who was waiting outside the door, couldn't hold back any longer and rushed in. Through her tears, she asked her mother why she was writing these letters, and who they were really meant for. Perhaps Anne had already sensed that her mother's body could not hold on much longer. Trembling, she asked her mother how much longer they could still be together. In truth, Anne understood everything. She only wanted to stay by her mother's side during her final days. Anne was not immature, she was simply too understanding for her age. That was why she was so heartbroken, and why she clung so tightly to her mother. She could not understand why those letters seemed more important to her mother than she was. Violet quickly followed after them, yet even she could not speak the truth. All she could tell Anne was that those letters were truly important. She understood Anne's sense of grievance, to bear all of this at such a young age. She had already been incredibly brave, but instead she was nothing like Violet described. She thought she was just a troublesome child, who was always making her mother upset. She even believed that her mother's illness was her own fault, and did not know how to face the loss of a loved one. So she placed all the blame upon herself, perhaps in the face of life and death. Everyone's helplessness is the same, with Violet's comfort. And finally began to accept reality. But the very next day, Violet's work came to an end. She stood at the doorway, saying farewell to the mother and daughter, just then, and called out to Violet. She stepped forward and kissed Violet on the cheek. The warmth of that touch made Anne realize that Violet was not a doll at all, but a living, breathing person. After that, spring passed into autumn, and cold followed warmth, and stayed by her mother's side through it all. They ate together, they slept together and read stories. They guessed riddles and caught insects together. But joyful moments are always limited. In the end, her mother still left Anne behind. Yet on Anne's birthday the following year, she received a letter. Only then did Anne finally understand. All those letters her mother had written with such effort had been meant for her. From that day on, every year on her birthday, Anne would receive a letter from her mother. Each line was filled with her mother's longing for her daughter. Each sentence revealed her mother's concern and love. Although her mother was no longer there, she continued to accompany her daughter as she grew up. In this quiet, enduring way, every letter was filled with regret. Every word carried longing. Every sentence was heavy with concern. Later on, Anne became a wife. She also became a mother, and only then did she truly understand what kind of pain her mother had endured during those 7 days so many years ago. That pain did not come from illness, but from the heartrending agony of a mother about to leave her beloved child behind. Evan, who was enlisting for the very first time, quietly took a photograph out from inside his coat during roll call. In the photo was Maria, the girl he loved. As he stood on the brink of deployment, Evan had only one wish: to write her one more letter. It might mark the beginning of their love, or it might be their final farewell. But before the automemory doll assigned to write the letter could arrive, the commanding officer had already ordered the entire unit to move out. At the same time, Hodgins, the owner of the postal company who had received Evan's request, found himself in a difficult position. He did not want his company's automemory dolls to go anywhere near a dangerous war zone. After much deliberation, he decided to refuse the commission. What he did not know was that, outside the room, Violet had overheard everything. She believed that soldiers standing on the battlefield must have feelings they desperately needed to convey. Then, the very next day, Hodgins discovered that Evan's request letter had mysteriously disappeared. At the same time, Violet herself was gone. From the other employees, Hodgins learned the truth. Violet had taken the commission letter and gone to the battlefield. By then, Violet had already arrived in the war zone. When Violet attempted to head directly toward the battlefield to fulfill the request, the local post office informed her that the area was completely inaccessible. Every route leading there had been cut off by heavy snow and ongoing combat. If she wanted to reach it, the only option was to parachute in by plane. Without hesitation, Violet chose the airdrop. As an auto-memory doll, as long as it was a client's wish, she would go anywhere. This unwavering resolve moved the pilot deeply. Without another word, he flew the plane straight toward the battlefield. Meanwhile, Evan had already engaged the enemy. The ambush came without warning. In a single instant, his commanding officer and all his comrades were killed before his eyes. Only then did Evan truly realize the cruelty of war. Snapping back to his senses, he hurriedly hoisted a wounded comrade onto his back and began to flee. The injured soldier cried out in agony, begging not to die. He still had family waiting for him back home. But war is merciless. With a single gunshot, the comrade who had been speaking moments before fell completely silent. Evan could do nothing but keep running. He wanted to go home. He wanted to see Maria one more time. But in the very next moment, he was shot by the enemy. The bullet did not hit a vital spot. Yet the enemy had already closed in around him. Death was only a matter of time. Just then, the roar of an aircraft echoed through the sky. A figure descended from above, and in an instant subdued the surrounding enemy soldiers. The one who arrived was Violet. The enemy commander recognized her at once. Violet had once been the nightmare of every soldier on the battlefield. This time, Violet did not want to kill. An agreement was reached. the enemy forces would retreat, and Violet would take Evan with her. The two of them then hid inside a wooden cabin. Only then did Evan realize that the person who had saved him was an auto-memory doll. Knowing that he did not have much time left, Evan begged Violet to help him write letters. He knew he would not survive long enough to make it home alive. After hesitating for a long while, Violet finally removed her gloves. Evan's first letter was addressed to his parents. He thanked them for raising him, but regretted deeply that he would never be able to care for them in their old age. Evan said so many things, yet he had only one wish, that in his next life, he could still be his parents' son. After finishing this letter, Evan began coughing violently. He took out a handkerchief and covered his mouth. As he did, a photograph slipped out. Evan noticed Violet's gaze and slowly began to explain. The person in the photo was the girl he loved. His second letter was meant for Maria. In the past, Evan had only ever seen Maria as a younger sister. When Maria suddenly confessed her feelings to him, he had been so overwhelmed with joy that he forgot to respond. That became a regret he carried with him ever since. He wanted to tell her that he loved her too. He wanted to hold her hand and kiss her on the forehead. But now, everything was too late. All those regrets could only be turned into a letter. The letter held no sweet talk or grand vows, only the simplest, most honest words. All he wanted was to return alive and marry her. After forcing himself to say all of this, Evan could no longer keep his eyes open. Violet held his hand with her mechanical hands. Hands that should have been cold and lifeless were, in that moment, warming Evan's heart. Evan seemed to see Maria. The two of them embraced in a golden wheat field. In that moment, there was no war and no death. There was only the love between them. Violet eventually delivered the letters to Evan's home. When his parents learned the truth, they collapsed into each other, weeping uncontrollably. Maria took the blood-stained handkerchief and the letter. Unable to believe what she was seeing, Violet could no longer bear to watch. She turned to leave, but Evan's mother called out to her. She embraced Violet and thanked her. She thanked Violet for bringing her son back home. War is just that cruel. The son of one farmer crosses mountains and seas to kill the son of another farmer. No matter what reason is used to start a war, no matter whether it sheds blood or not, perhaps there is no such thing as justice within it. And this scene does not exist only in this story. Somewhere in the world today, even more unbearable tragedies are continuously unfolding. May every deep affection find its place to return. May every regret be remembered with gentleness. May there be no more war in this world, only love and warmth.